Hey everybody, good morning. Good to be with you. It's 10:25 on Wednesday morning. Ryan Breton, Mike Slifer. How's it going, Mike?
It's good.
Good.
We've got an interesting storm to talk about here.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't seen Mike yet, he's been here about 6 weeks now, but you're doing weekend evenings and then you're here during the week too.
Yes.
And kind of doing the shift that I used to do. So we overlap on Wednesdays, so good to see you. We'll let a few people join and we're going to give just a rundown on what to expect for the storm. Not a whole lot has changed in the last 36 hours, but the wind threat, especially along the coast, we're just becoming a little more confident that it's a serious one, and there will be power outages. It's really just a question of how many at this point. So let's put the graphics full, so you'll be able to see that. And if you have a question, we'll try to go through and answer. But hopefully in the next 2 or 3 minutes, we kind of summarize everything that you need to know. First off, we can see the storm coming together, and this is almost like a wintertime setup in a way.
Right.
You've got one piece coming up this way, another one digging down here, and then they'll form a storm to our south late tonight into tomorrow morning. Last few days we've been talking about how this is almost like a nor'easter setup. And in the winter you might hear us talk about storm track, right?
Absolutely.
This one's going to take kind of an inland track. And in the winter, that would obviously mean a change to rain and things like that, or ice.
Right.
This storm, it's important because it actually changes the wind direction. Ahead of the storm, we'll have a northeast wind, but as the storm cuts up into western Maine and New Hampshire, the winds may actually swing around to the east or southeast. And for coastal Maine and seacoast New Hampshire, that's not a good wind direction, because the wind kind of comes in off the ocean, uninhibited, no friction or anything like that, and can make the wind stronger. So that's why the wind threat has kind of grown a little bit. We'll give you the timeline on the rain. This afternoon's good.
It looks like a beautiful day. I saw your tweet, the calm before the storm. If you haven't been outside yet, gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful here now. A good thing that you can get stuff done today,
Right.
I will see, right. The good thing is this is a quick moving storm, so I don't see this as a situation where people will be running to the grocery stores because they can't get out. Maybe to pick up some water or things like that, some stuff to have tomorrow morning in case you can't make breakfast because the power goes out. But this isn't like ahead of a winter storm or a blizzard or anything like that. Good idea to maybe take in some of the Halloween decorations or patio furniture too, if you haven't already done that, because it'll be blowing around. But this is the map at 8 o'clock tonight, and we're still quiet. We'll fast forward. The rain probably starts between about 9 o'clock and midnight in western Maine. Bangor's still dry at that point. Late tonight, after midnight, that's when the rain really comes in, and it's tomorrow morning that this will be at its worst.
Yeah, it looks like tomorrow morning is when we're going to see the heaviest rain and also most likely the gustiest winds. Timing on that is mostly going to be from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock along the coastline, 5 or 6 to about 9 or 10 inland, and then wrapping up in northern Maine as we get a little bit later into Thursday morning.
Yeah, you notice it's really kind of a consolidated storm. And for example, the Portland area or the mid-coast, I'd imagine 4, 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, it'll be pouring, it'll be really windy. But by maybe 8 or 9 tomorrow morning, the rain lets up and the wind will lighten up too. So we don't want to get it lost in translation that the whole day is going to be in jeopardy, because it's not. I mean, the afternoon won't be beautiful, but the rain will lighten up. There may be some times where it's not really raining and we just have some showers, and the wind will lighten up for a period of time late tomorrow morning into early afternoon, and then it will get breezy on the backside of the storm later in the day tomorrow.
Right, and a lot of those breezy conditions will carry over into Friday, but the breeziness won't be quite as intense as the wind gusts we see tomorrow morning.
Exactly. So here's a look at some of the wind gusts. Todd and I drew this map this morning just to give you an idea on what the top winds may be or where the greatest threat is. And most signs point to Portland, Casco Bay, into the mid-coast and around Penobscot Bay as the area to be most concerned about the strongest winds. Potential 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, could even be isolated higher in some spots. Inland, the wind kind of drops off.
A little bit, yeah, and it's important to note that since the trees still have leaves on them, that's going to potentially not amplify the effects of the wind, but could cause more issues it's easier to take those leaves off and sometimes take branches with those leaves. So.
Right. The foliage will probably be done after today in a lot of spots, so enjoy it. But it also means that the leaves almost act like sails on the branches in a way. Here's just a little summary on kind of the impact of the wind depending on your location. For the coastal plain, southern Maine, and down east Maine, even up to Augusta and Lewiston too, kind of including you in this. The worst of the wind probably between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m., generally speaking. A little earlier than that, York County and Seacoast, New Hampshire, maybe more like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. there. Same idea in Portland, kind of centered around 6 a.m. And then eastern Maine up until about 8 a.m. If we get gusts to 60 miles per hour, it will cause widespread outages.
Right.
We know we're going to have enough wind to cause outages. It's just a question of how much and how many.
Right.
Odds are pretty good. We're talking on the order of tens of thousands, if not more. The odds are also low that it's not like the storm we had 2 years ago where there were 500,000 outages. I mean, a repeat of that would be pretty unprecedented, but it may be somewhere in between.
In between, right.
Interior Maine, it's more like 8 a.m. to noon is your worst wind, but only gusts to about 40 miles per hour. So here, more scattered outages or isolated outages. The threat really is highest along the coast. And like Mike mentioned, it's because of the leaves that in this part of the state we're still worried about outages, even though it's not quite as strong. So I want to see if you have any questions here. Let's see. Rose is in Augusta. When is it going to hit the hardest in terms of wind? Augusta, I'd say you're kind of in the middle of that time frame. Pouring rain pre-dawn. The worst of the wind would probably be, 5 to 8 a.m., something like that. Is this a one loaf or two loaf storm? Steve, I'd say maybe is a one loaf. It's definitely not a two loaf. You'll be able to get out of your house tomorrow afternoon.
Right.
It's just a matter of, how long do power outages last where they happen? What is it going to be like in Bangor? Potential for gusts up to 50 miles per hour, and we'll show you the rain timeline. Kind of slowly play this through. Takes until late tonight or really early tomorrow morning for the rain to get to Bangor. And the worst there is during the morning.
I think that this is going to have an impact on the morning rush hour. The good news is it's not snow and ice.
Right.
But heavy rain, maybe some ponding on the roadways. Another piece to this too is that with all the leaves that are getting blown down, some of the storm drains may get a little blocked up. That could slow the water, but since the rain is pretty quick moving, I don't think that we're going to see huge issues.
Right, and fortunately our rivers and streams are not a threat here. We haven't had a lot of rain lately, but yeah, the catch basins get filled with leaves or the storm drains, and some ponding and street flooding definitely possible. I think the worst morning commute actually may be from Lewiston to Bangor. In Portland, the rain may stop around 7 a.m.
Right.
But the damage will be done from the limbs and branches knocked down at that point. Question about when will the NWS issue watches and warnings for the storm? They actually already have. Let me pull this up. There is a high wind watch for the coastline, the entire Maine coastline, tonight into midday tomorrow. It's pretty likely they'll upgrade some places to a high wind warning, I think, especially, like we mentioned, Casco Bay into down east. And inland spots will probably get a wind advisory.
Right.
Meaning scattered outages in the wind advisory, potential for more widespread outages in the warning.
Right. So where we see this watch in place, eventually it will either get upgraded to that warning position or it will get switched over to an advisory. But like Ryan said, I think from about the Casco Bay all the way down east is where we will likely see that warning get put into place.
Right, and they indicated in their discussion this morning too, there's a pretty good chance they do an advisory inland. They just didn't put the watch up there. So, let's see. Friends have a flight scheduled to leave at 8 a.m. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I think tomorrow afternoon, any airline delays should improve. I mean, and the other thing to consider is that New York and Boston are also getting hit by this. DC in some ways getting hit by this. So there are the whole East Coast is being impacted, and there will be flight delays just in that regard. Planes
Right.
having issues at those major airports. Flooding or surf issues mid-coast. Actually, to be honest, one really good thing is that our tides are pretty low. And this is happening actually during low tide.
Right.
So
Helps to cut back on the risk a little bit.
yeah, this could be a lot worse if it was hitting at a high tide and a high astronomical tide, but that's not the case here. So there could be some erosion or very minor coastal issues in terms of flooding, but nothing significant.
Right.
The way we see it. We're flying from Florida on Monday to Portland, staying in the hotel near the jetport, Sandra asked. What do you think? You're probably fine on Friday.
Friday should be good. Still might be a little rough when you land, but not bad.
Valerie asking about Waldoboro. Waldoboro is on the mid-coast over here. Let me get my pointer out. Where'd it go? Here it is. Waldoboro is over here. And unfortunately, you're kind of in the middle of that zone that has the potential for 50 up to 60 mile per hour gusts. So, yeah, Waldoboro, I'd be ready. Thunder and lightning in the Rumford area? What do you think? Could be some embedded thunder, but nothing
There might be a little
widespread.
bit. No, I don't think that we have quite the setup for much in the way of thunder. Maybe a couple rumbles.
There was a question about north of Bangor, Holton area. It takes a little longer to start. Probably early tomorrow morning it starts raining there, and it doesn't let up until early to mid-afternoon. But your winds are also lighter, maybe gusts to 40 at worst. So any power outage issues should be less up in Aroostook County. But you'll still get rain and gusty winds. One thing, we made this morning and showed it on the morning show. I might have to drag it over just so you can see. Beth can drag us over. Thanks, Beth. So these were just a couple of things that came to mind when Todd and I were in the office this morning. Good idea to remember to charge your cell phones tonight. Just given the timing of this, you don't want to wake up with a cell phone that's at like 15% battery and then have no way to charge it in your house. You can also stream the morning report tomorrow morning if you don't have power and you want to get the latest information. Mike will actually be outside. Todd will be here. And we'll have people all over. So you can do that. I don't know if we'll be on Facebook or not, but you can stream through our website or app tomorrow morning. If you have any outdoor furniture, Halloween decorations, tie them down, bring them in, that kind of thing. And to the point about wind, there could be some school delays or closings just given the timing if schools don't have power.
Right.
If trees are down blocking roads. Not a guarantee, but it's a possibility and something to at least think about.
I wouldn't expect widespread, especially for inland Maine.
Right.
Don't bank on having a wind. Would it be a wind
Wind day, it's happened
instead
before.
of a snow day?
Yeah.
But the chance is there.
Yeah, in a few towns, I'd expect at least somewhere, a school loses power or something like that.
Right.
How many remains to be seen, but it's, for parents, for childcare purposes, things like that, something to at least consider, especially in that mid-coast zone, in Greater Portland too. So.
Yeah.
Anything you think we missed, or?
Let's pull up the list of the strongest gusts.
Oh yeah, this is pretty interesting.
Just to put everything in perspective here.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty interesting list. Of course, being new here still, I'm still learning a lot about Maine's weather history, if you will. I do a lot of reading, especially on the internet, just read old articles about historical storms. So this was an interesting list. I think it's interesting to see that the highest gust on the list was from 2010, so relatively recent.
Yeah, that was I actually remember that storm. I was in New Hampshire at the time, and the Isles of Shoals or Portsmouth, New Hampshire, gusted to 90 miles an hour in February. The good news is we're not going to have that much wind, but in the fall when there are leaves on the trees, it doesn't take as much wind to knock down limbs and things like that and cause power outages. The highlighted one is the October windstorm 2 years ago. I would be pretty surprised if Portland tops that. I think 60 is more likely as a top gust, and it's possible it's even lower than that. But I think that the upper end on this is not quite to that 2 year ago level. Which is
good news.
Yes, absolutely. So that's just to kind of put it into perspective. So with that said, I think we've pretty much covered it. We'll try to go back on the comments and answer any questions. You can get the latest on our website, on our mobile app. Todd did a blog this morning. I did a second one too, kind of just focusing on the outage risk. Keith will be here, Mike will be here, Jess will be here through the day too.
Yep.
So have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching.